views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Okay, good morning, everyone. So happy to have everyone here today. We're going to start off with our roll call. We'll just go around the table, all the way around. We'll end up over here, and then over on this side. And then we'll move into our agenda. My name is Marika Scott McFadden. I'm the Deputy Borough President in God's country, the Bronx. And to my left, that was my left, right?
Tom McCaney, Director of Community Board. Jose Rodriguez, Chief of Staff.
Reshma Hardprasad from Vanessa Gibson's office.
Peter Cantillo, Second Vice Chairman, Board 10.
Mohammed Majumdar, First Vice Chair, Committee Board 9.
Laura Spolter, Chair, Community Board 8.
Emmanuel Martinez, Chair of Community Board 7.
Good morning. My name is Ken Brown. I'm the District Manager of Board 5.
Good morning, Ralph Acevedo, Board 2.
Tracy McDermott, Director of Community Services for Bronx Borough President Ruben Diaz Jr.
Marisol Halpern, I'm the Director of Borough Operations for Borough President Ruben Diaz.
Nancy Keck, Director of Health and Human Services. Good morning.
Eric Pesner, Policy Analyst for the Borough President.
Alexis Walters, Policy Analyst for the Borough President.
Excuse me.
Saeed Al-Mudni, Fernando Cabrera's office.
Christopher Rones, New York City DOT.
Teresa Cruz, Bronx DOT.
Keith Kalb, Deputy Borough Commissioner, Bronx DOT.
So as I said earlier, we're either going to be very hot or we're going to be able to hear. So it looks like George has chosen to hear. He's going to turn off the fan. Unplug it. Thank you, our hero, George. So, the timer begins before we are overwhelmed with the heat. So let's get started with the agenda. Pursuant to Chapter 4, Section 85 and Chapter 69, Section 2706 of the New York City Charter, a joint meeting of the Bronx Borough Service Cabinet and Bronx Borough Board will take place here today, Thursday, July 22nd, 2021, starting at 10 a.m. in the Rotunda at 851 Grand Concourse. Our first presentation today will be from the New York City Department of Transportation, launching of New York City Streets Plan. Our presenter or presentation will be by Christopher Rones, the H is silent, Rones, Director of Strategic Transit Initiatives, and Justin Romero, Director of Special Prostitutes. No Justin today? Oh, okay, well, We're happy to have you.
I'll take my mask off so you can hear me better. Thank you very much for having me this morning. We're looking forward to, we've already launched the project, but we're looking forward to engaging with Bronx and Bronx residents even more. Next slide. What I'm going to talk about today is briefly go through some of the background and sort of why we're doing this, this plan. Talk about what our generally what our approach is, and then get into some of the public engagement opportunities, and want to conclude by talking about specific opportunities in the Bronx. Next slide. Next slide. So this plan really emanates from 2019, when the City Council, after the Speaker sort of raised this idea in a report he issued, the City Council passed a local law mandating a streets master plan, and that law was signed into law by Mayor de Blasio in 2019. Next slide. The local law itself requires us, DOT, to issue a plan by the end of this year, December. It's a 5-year plan, and it's required to be renewed every 5 years. And for those of you who may be familiar with the plan, it identifies what they call specific benchmarks. They're really like targets for work that we're meant to do. And there also is a reporting requirement that we do annual status reports, and a public education campaign requirement. So the idea is once the plan's in place, there would be a campaign letting people know about the plan. We're sort of being more proactive than that, and we have a public engagement element that goes along with the crafting of the plan right now. Next slide. So what do they mean by benchmark items? Well, I'm not going to go over them in great detail today in terms of the actual numbers and targets, but if you're interested, you can go to our the web page for the project, which is nyc.gov/NYC Streets Plan, and the actual text of the law is there. But it includes a number of items such as protected bus lanes, bike lanes, and I'll go through some of these in a moment on individual slides, so I won't go through the whole list now. But I think an important point to make is that what's outlined in the plan requirements are all things that DOT is currently doing right now, and really the law asks us to ramp up what we're doing. And our ability to implement, to be able to ramp up, does depend on additional resources. And that includes not only financial resources, but additional staff, contract capacity. So one of the things this will be doing over the next few months is trying to identify, how realistic is it in the next 5 years to have those resources to be able to ramp up as the law states. Next slide. So I'm just going to go through some of these items that are called for, and as I said, are also things that we currently do. So bus lanes, obviously, that's something we've been ramping up more, and I think particularly in the Bronx, there have been some recent projects in the Bronx, EL Grant, 161st Street was a few years ago, as you saw, and we're getting to, we're trying out new things that become more effective. We're also focused on camera enforcement, so we recently got the statutory ability to enforce all our bus lanes. Previously, it was more constrained, so we're looking at ramping that up so the bus lanes do become effective. Improved bus stops. The law calls for things like shelters, real-time passenger information that tells people, when the next bus is coming. But we are also interested, although it's not strictly speaking in the law, in how do we ensure that all those bus stops are accessible, that they have, sidewalks. In some cases, there are bus stops that don't have sidewalks, or the sidewalks are in poor condition. So that's another concern of ours. Next slide. Protected bike lanes, obviously something that we've been implementing throughout the city. There was a plan that specifically outlined a specific plan on called Green Wave that specifically outlined a protected bike lane network for the city. The plan also, the law also calls for additional pedestrian space, and there are many ways we can add more pedestrian space. Adding a pedestrian island provides more space, but it also provides an important safety measure for people crossing the street. Next slide. And then there are a number of accessibility related programs that we have in place now. We're slowly but surely upgrading all the pedestrian ramps at the corners to make them fully ADA compliant. We also have an accessible pedestrian signal program for individuals with visual impairment. Next slide. The law also calls for assessing commercial loading zones. That's something we do in places where there is demand, and we continue to look for opportunities to do that. Next slide. And then just wanted to mention things that aren't explicitly in the plan, but things that are sort of pretty core to our mission, and obviously we'll need to keep doing on an ongoing basis, which obviously requires resources too. So obviously we have our roadway resurfacing program, which is continuous. Our bridge maintenance program is very important. Next slide. Also, not explicitly called out in the plan, but we're doing a number of things at intersections to try to slow car turns down. You see the example here. So we're always looking for new ways of improving safety through our Vision Zero program. And streetlight installation and repair is obviously an ongoing concern. Next slide. And there are a couple new programs since the law was passed in 2019. Of course, 2020 was an unusual year, but it did bring some new programs that were directly responsive to COVID, and that includes open streets and open restaurants. Next slide. So I just want to talk a little bit about our plan approach. Next slide. Sorry, this didn't render quite well, but basically this is just setting in context where the plan fits in. So I'm not going to dwell on this, but there are a number of sort of citywide and regional plans. So this is at the agency-wide plan. And it's kind of a follow-up to a DOT strategic plan we did several years ago, but this is more directly focused on the streets. And it's also informed by a number of recent plans that we've done that looked at specific aspects of our transportation system. So there was a Better Buses Action Plan that looked at how we can make buses faster. The Green Wave report I talked about earlier was sort of creating a vision for better bicycle facilities throughout the city. And then we periodically update our Vision Zero. We issue Vision Zero reports that talk about how we're doing on that program in terms of safety. So all of these will inform this streets plan, which is more comprehensively looking at all of those things. Next slide. Just real briefly, obviously we need to have 2020 in mind and take into account some of the transportation trends. So part of this is looking at data, looking at what we're seeing in 2020 in terms of traffic, in terms of transit ridership. Equity was always going to be an important part of this plan. I think after 2020 and what we saw with the unequal impact of COVID and some of the racial justice movements, that it's even more so in the forefront of our mind as we move forward. And then, budget implications, we're in a better place we were a year ago, but we still need to be mindful of what our budgets could look like in years ahead. Next slide. I just wanted to mention that we do have, this plan is being executed by New York City DOT, but we do have help. We're fortunate to have help from a consultant team, and these are just the partners on that team. Sam Schwartz is the prime consultant. Next slide. So I want to spend a little time talking about our public engagement and hopefully asking you to help us make sure that we're getting a full picture of what people think about the city and transportation. Next slide. Really what we want to do, at a base level, communicate information about the plan, but we definitely want to have a dialogue. We want to hear what people are thinking, and we want to the extent that we can, get input from everyone in New York City. So really focus on the diversity of New Yorkers and the diversity of views and make sure we're not just hearing from, one particular point of view. And then I think it's a little bit of a balance between getting overall input on sort of citywide issues, but of course, whenever we engage with people, they naturally want to talk about their specific neighborhood, their specific issues. So obviously, we welcome that too, but we also want to sort of get people thinking about sort of the overall big pictures. How do we invest our resources? Next slide. So these are just some of the main components. We really kicked off. We've been meeting with borough boards and notifying community boards over the past month or two. We've had what we call an online engagement platform. It's kind of a wonky term. I think we could just call it an interactive survey. It's like a survey we can access from our website. I'll show an example in a minute. We also plan to do some targeted polling to get at some of those communities that may have not participated in the survey. And then we have 2 rounds of public workshops. And I'll talk more about the Bronx workshops in a moment, but the first round is ongoing now, and the second round is coming up later this year. And ultimately, the plan is due to City Council in December. So in terms of key stakeholders, beyond the public as a whole, we'll be working on reaching out to electeds, obviously these presentations, and we've had some conversations with advocates and not-for-profits as well. Next slide. So this is our interactive survey. It's called MetroQuest. I invite all of you to check it out. It takes about 10 minutes. Again, go to our website, webpage, nyc.gov/NYC Streets Plan. It's not your sort of typical boring, answer these questions surveys. There's a number of activities where one is where you move coins around to say, how would you like to see resources allocated to different types of transportation improvements. There's another mapping feature. I guess the last point is just emphasizing, I think typically when we put these out, it's a little bit of a self-selected process. Those people who are really engaged, who are excited about transportation issues are the ones who go there on day one. But we're really making an effort to try to get wider participation. And I'll talk about that in a moment. Next slide. So this is one of the ways we want to do it. Right now we're planning to do some telephone polling, somewhat similar to, the political type polling. So we're actually going to randomly we're not, but we're going to hire a firm to randomly be calling people and asking them, questions similar to what we have on our website. And that way we're ensuring we're not just getting that self-selected population, but we're getting a broader range of views. And we actually did one of these. It was more targeted to bus lanes and bus priority in Fordham, and we had some success with that. We got some really interesting results and pretty representative results when we compared it with the demographics of those community boards. So that was something that inspired us to try it here as well. Next slide. Just the workshops. As I mentioned, we're underway with our first round now. They will be completed by the end of July, and the idea is to sort of build upon the website activities, but actually have conversations. So we have sort of structured activities. It's all virtual now in breakout rooms where people get to talk to each other. We have different images that people can see and say what they think about it. So far, I think that's been really good. And in our second round, we're going to be coming back in the fall. And at that point, we'll have some more, concrete, I wouldn't say final recommendations at all, but sort of concrete ideas on where we're going with the plan and more getting reactions from people on that. Next slide. So this is the final slide. I just wanted to sort of make a pitch for our workshops in the Bronx. We actually have 10 workshops throughout the city. They're all virtual, so anyone can attend. We're organizing them by area, so we have 2 areas in the Bronx. But I do want to emphasize that, and we're also having them different times of day. So the first one's in the evening, the other one's in the afternoon. I want to emphasize that we're open to anyone attending any workshop. So if you can't make the one that's in your, community district, that's fine. Come to another one. to the extent this group can sort of get the word out, you can go to our website and register. Again, go to that website. I'll give it out one more time, nyc.gov/NYC Streets Plans. That's where you can sign up. And if you don't register, you can still participate. But we're trying to be create as much access as possible to those workshops so we can get that input. So I think that's the final slide. At this point, I'm happy to answer questions that people may have about the streets plan.
Ralph, I saw you had your hand.
Thank you, Madam Deputy. Good morning. Thank you for the presentation. I just want to make a statement on behalf of Board 2. We are in support of vehicle and pedestrian safety improvements, but not at the loss of parking spaces. So we are experiencing road dieting and the city bike program, which has already taken parking from my district. And we are very concerned with these new improvements, which were for the loss of greater, more parking spaces. We feel that there should be some common ground with the city and interacting with neighborhoods on the loss of parking spaces, because that's the major complaint that I've been receiving in my office. When City Bike comes up and working now with the Bronx DOT with new safety improvements for vehicle and pedestrians, it's 20 parking spaces, 30 parking spaces at each location, and I'm getting a lot of complaints about that. So I just want to go on record that we are in support of it, but there needs to be some common ground as far as the loss of parking spaces. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Yes.
Thank you, Deputy. When the DOT begins rolling this program out, how's it going to be rolled out, or are there going to be priority communities? Is it, when you go for implementation, are there going to be priority areas, or is it based on need, or is that premature? That something that will come out of the conversations?
No, it's a really good question. So it's a 5-year plan. We're not going to be saying, it's not going to be a super detailed program of every project we're going to do in the next 5 years. But as you allude to, one of the things we'll be doing is looking at, obviously hearing from the public, but also looking at data, looking at metrics related to equity, looking at density, looking at where projects have been done in the past. And we're going to use that to establish priorities areas in the city. It doesn't mean we're going to do all of our projects in those areas, but it's a statement to say these are areas that for various reasons we think we should be focusing more attention on. In terms of the actual implementation, we're going to continue to go through, we may have some refinements to the process that come through the plan, but we're going to continue to, on a project-by-project basis, have the sort of planning and engagement process with the communities, with the community boards. So it's not like we're saying, this is the plan, we're going to go do it. There will still be work to do on individual projects once we sort of outline where those projects might be.
Yeah. Thank you, Deputy Quality. I just think that in terms of some areas of the Bronx, there's a great need for some of the things that were highlighted in the presentation, particularly in our District 14. There's some areas that would really benefit from some of the things that you're outlining in the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
George.
Thank you. My concern, again, to point out or echo Ralph's concern, this is sorely needed, but what I would suggest, or what my concern has been, especially in my neck of the woods, DOT street plan doesn't necessarily deal with sidewalks appropriately. You've done pedestrian ramps in my district, but it seems all moot because if you're handicapped and you're looking for an accessible city, we're failing to meet that goal. Sidewalks in my district are horrible. Your enforcement is horrible. Landlords or homeowners are not doing anything to fix their sidewalks, even when they get violations from the NECO unit or the high school unit. I think you really need to do more. I know that there were city council candidates that ran on the platform that the city should be repairing these sidewalks for free and then billing the homeowners. I really think you need to pay more attention to that, because I often find people who are in scooters or the handicapped scooters, the ones that you ride on, are riding in the street, making it even more dangerous for people who are driving their vehicles and themselves. So again, I think that this is sorely needed. I just really think you need to address the sidewalks. It's really horrible. And moreover, even public places, again, I don't know necessarily what jurisdiction, if it's the state or the city, but you have bridges that are inaccessible, that have cracks all around them. I mean, you know, again, I feel like this city wants to be more equitable. The mayor ran on being equitable, and he's only talking about it now that he's on his way out. You really should be focusing on fixing the things that you can, i.e. repairing things that are broken now, sidewalks, bridges, all those sorts of things that don't require capital improvement, but also at the same time doing more to make the city of New York more accessible. I think that the Streetscape program misses that by a wide margin.
Thank you for that comment. I guess one thing I would say is that we're not limited to what the city council said, these are the things you need to work on. If there are things we hear as we go through this process that people are telling us and we feel we need to address, you know, that can be part of the plan too. So I appreciate, you know, what I heard from you was specifically sidewalk accessibility, not just at the corners, and also more generally focusing on sort of state of good repair and making sure that the infrastructure we have is kept in place. So I thank you for those comments.
Yes, I mean, simple things like painting graffiti off of your structures.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Balder.
I have had difficulty hearing because of the echo. I don't know. I had difficulty seeing. Will this be emailed to
Yes,
us?
I meant to state that as well.
Okay.
We'll just send everyone a copy in your regular emails of a copy of the presentation.
In our board 8, whenever bike lanes appears on an agenda, you can expect 200 people to show up in opposition. And my concern is that, like George said, we care about the potholes as far as DOT's budget, the infrastructure, the resurfacing. I feel like that is poor and maybe getting short shrift, the infrastructure that we have. And the answer to every problem seems to be bike lanes instead of enforcement, instead of maybe an extra light, instead of, you know, I'm glad that I heard cameras. It's just that, as I said, these things are extremely controversial in Community Board 8. And when our board has voted against the DOT plan, DOT has gone forward and done it anyway. And I'm hoping that there will be a lot of back and forth, because some of the things that have been done, for example, a major bike lane and reconfigure on Broadway has resulted in Department of Sanitation trucks not being able to pick up where they used to pick up, not being able to get in, and the snowplows not being able to function. It seems that everybody is very focused on certain things and not checking with sister agencies to make sure that the footage is there. And it's really, our stores are complaining constantly that they can no longer have, the cans have been taken away because there's no access, because there's a new bus bulb by sanitation. So I'm hoping that there's coordination there. I congratulate you on this effort. I understand it's very important, and thank you for the presentation, but we just have concerns because we feel that plans are not looking at every aspect of the impacts of the plan. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess I would just say one thing is that as part of this plan, it's obviously a DOT-focused plan, but as part of this plan, we do intend to identify areas of coordination or areas where other city agencies that do have certain roles in our streets do need to play a role as well. So we will be looking at that. And then getting back to sort of your earlier comment about having these conversations about bike lanes or whatever topic it is, I guess just another pitch for the workshops. That's where a lot of those conversations are happening. And, we have people on both sides, right? We have people who are saying, do more aggressive bike lanes. We have some people who are saying it's too much. So, I think having those conversations are helpful.
Yes. Jose?
I guess my concern is really the public engagement aspect. Given the short period of time that this plan needs to be submitted to the council, there really needs to be a robust effort on behalf of DOT to really truly educate the public. While virtual communication is great, and most of us have been used to it, for a year and a half now, there are still pockets within certain districts and certain communities, in the Bronx, that virtual meeting spaces still pose an issue for them. So, if at all possible, in person, if that's possible, is definitely recommended. But there definitely needs to be a more robust community outreach plan to ensure that, to the best of the ability, that the agency is doing its due diligence in properly communicating with the immediate affected community.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments for DOT? Okay, seeing none, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We will move forward with our next presentation, which will be virtual. We're going to, let's see now, we have New York City Cleanup Corps Internship Project. The presentation will be by Nicole Hainsworth, Human Resource Administration, Department of Social Services. And I think we may also have Lonnie Gordon, Director of Internship Service Program for the Jewish Community Council of Greater New York. So, Ms. Hainsworth, whoever wants to start out. As we previously predicted, our technology would require our patience. "20 years ago."
Good morning. Good morning. It's better? Okay, great. Good morning, all. I am Nicole Hainsworth, the Director of Community Service Management with Human Resources Administration, or HRA. And we also have...
I'm Leonie Gordon. I'm the Director of the Internship Placement Services Program from the Jewish Community Council of Greater Coney Island.
And this morning, we're going to briefly talk to you about the Mayor's Initiative, the City Cleanup Course Initiative. And the goal of this initiative is to support community organizations and community gardens, local businesses, citywide indoor and outdoor beautification. So what this initiative will offer is the beautification activities, and they vary. So it could be cleaning up public spaces, creating community murals, removing graffiti, planting community gardens, painting and cleaning indoor and outdoor spaces, power washing the sidewalks, picking up the litter in the streets. So our goal is to place 1,000 interns from June 1st to September 30th. It's a 6-month opportunity, working 40 hours per week. So what Internship Placement Services IPS program is we have a partnership with Jewish Community Council for Greater Coney Island, or JCC, and HRA is funded by HRA, and that's how we get our participants internship placements. So what JCC does is that they assist cash assistance recipients from 18 to 59 years old, and they are being referred to JCC by HRA. They also assist the unemployed New York City residents, again, 18 years and older, and wishing them to participate in the city cleanup course as a paid internship opportunity. And we hope that we mentor, coach, and empower these individuals to be more successful and self-sufficient with this internship program. We also want to build partnerships with local communities and nonprofit businesses across the 5 boroughs. And this will also connect individuals with internship and volunteer opportunities to work at these partner work sites. It would also expand career network. And when the interns, we hope to collaborate with the partners to help enhance and sharpen the interns' skills.
Thank you, Nicole. And to add to what Nicole is saying, we started off with the beautification goal or objective, letting you know a little bit about who we are and sort of how we're engaging partners, because the benefit is tremendous. It is a collective call to action, as you'll see me go back to this, doing activities that will help to expand the city, both in terms of businesses reopening, as well as visitors coming back to the city, and overall economy, both in terms of growth for the interns and also for partners who are looking to get the support. There is a tremendous benefit as a partner. As a partner, you're assisting interns not only to grow and develop, but at a particular time when it's hard to find a job. And these are members within the community who are situated where a partner is situated. That means a community center is situated in Harlem. We are interested in interns learning about the opportunity in Harlem so it's convenient for them. So the beautification of space, there's help with having individuals who are being paid by JCCGCI, serving in a capacity to assist you, and immediately available to help you in that respect. If you think about it holistically, as a community organization or as a business, you're talking about a reduction in the hiring of staff because you're not responsible for paying for these individuals. In addition, I know that, and we know, both HRA and JCCGCI understand that workers' compensation might be an issue for you as a partner, and we have coverage for that when it comes to this internship opportunity. We also are planning on providing partnership supervision because we know that organizations are extremely lean right now as things have changed since you've reopened. And when you look at the possibility of hosting 20 plus interns, we're able to provide that for you. An access to a future workforce that you may not be aware of, that they may not be aware of you. And so it's the idea of helping all New Yorkers get back to work with this chance. So not only are you benefiting as a partner if you're interested in this opportunity, there are roles involved regarding supervision if you have less number of interns that we can discuss more personally as you think about this opportunity. But there's benefits for our interns as well, right? The benefits for interns, I want to get to this next slide, is that they're giving back to their community and they're building their resumes for future employment opportunity. They're networking with you as prospective employers. One of the services that we provide through the funding resource that we get from HRA is a wraparound service that we give to our interns. So as they exist within this internship opportunity, they're able to build their resumes, which members of IPS team is able to help them with, so that as this opportunity ends, they're looking for greater opportunity along the board. And in addition to that, might add, we are hoping that as interns work with you, that you also think about them as potential employers that you have access, employees that you have access to, and a chance to move them into a role that's more permanent with your organization. So the benefits for interns are tremendous, as for you. $20 an hour. They're working 40 hours a week with 1 hour lunch pay, so actually working 35 hours. There's sick leave available to them based upon accrual. We understand that this is important given the fact that COVID-19 is still prevalent. There's a policy that's being required. We do provide our interns upon entry into our program masks for them to wear, and with the understanding that safety is important and for that to be revealed should anything happen, and for communication with partners. For those who are on public assistance, referred directly by HRA, we do have transportation, which is not a cost that will eat out of the money that they're earning. In addition, for those who are unemployed and have limited access to funding, we do inform them of fair fares as calling 311, and are also willing to assist those interns in the process. For those, in addition to that, there's assistance with childcare for those who are on public assistance. And that is a process that they would need to go through with their HRA case managers handling their case. Overall, if you really think about it, the idea of mutual partnership is what this is about. The idea of collective call to action is what this is about. As Nicole and I present to you today, we have a partnership not only with us and JCC, GCI, but also with the city. It is an understanding that resources are limited, but it's more of an understanding that our community, New York as we know it, is a vital and exciting place to be, right? And so we want our city to get back to being clean, to being in the space that we know we bring to it, and have that creativity and opportunity. Have any questions?
Okay, again, we will provide a copy of this presentation as well to you in the emails. Do you have any question for our presenters? Yes, Jose.
Not quite sure. Again, say that again.
No, we can't hear it.
Can you hear me now? Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay.
Quick question. Do you have a list of targeted areas that the cleanup corps is currently operating in right now?
Right now, we have areas that we know were highly impacted based upon 311 calls and so communities of interest span certain high priority areas, if you can hear me, but this is a citywide initiative. We've looked at the idea of where 311 calls came through from Brownsville, East Harlem. We're looking at Bed-Stuy, South Bronx, Jamaica, Queens, but once again, this is a citywide initiative. So it covers all 5 boroughs. So as a partner, you have the opportunity to engage where you start.
So do you currently have a list of partners that you're working with in specific areas like the South Bronx?
Yes, we do. We do have 3 partners at the moment. One of which is 2 of which is a senior nursing home area that we have. We're also building partnerships in the South Bronx, and this is kind of why we have these meetings, is the idea of ensuring that partners goes. I know there's a number of partners who are calling and working with us and developing partnerships. So we're really looking for greater opportunities.
We welcome, Councilmember Ayala's office welcomes the opportunity to look at the Bronx portion of our district. There are certain areas that definitely could use this program. And I have seen the core in East Harlem, which is the Manhattan portion of our district.
There's a little translation going on.
Absolutely, would love that.
Mr. Faulkner?
Again, thank you, Deputy. You mentioned that individuals who receive HRA benefits would be eligible for this. Would they be required to accept this internship in order to retain their HRA benefits?
So yes, they will be eligible and will take cash assistance or HRA clients preference first. However, this is a paid internship opportunity, so their income will be budgeted towards their case. So when they go to orientation at JCC, someone will explain all of this to them, and then they can decide whether they would take the internship or decide that they don't want an internship because it will affect their cash assistance budget.
So if they decline the internship, it would not affect their eligibility for continued service?
No, no, no. This is strictly voluntary. It's not mandated for them.
I'd like to add to that as well. The one thing that is important about this opportunity is Nicole said it's voluntary, right? And so we have interns who, it's part of the partnership with JCC GCI is a partnership application that will need to be completed. And it's very important for us to really think about how do we advertise those job opportunities interns to ensure that they're also enticed to be a part of it as well. And so it's a matter of, and it's a matter of ensuring convenient location that they can act this way. So just keep that in mind as well as part of the process, since it's voluntary.
So I have a question about the timing. If this is to end in September, does the internship, is it like a revolving internship that will re-up for another 6 months and another when this ends in September?
I would like to add that, just for clarification purposes, the hiring of interns will end by September 30th, but this is a 6-month internship opportunity. And if you think about it, if you're hired in September, we're talking about looking at March, the end date. We are hoping that out of this, additional funds will be provided because of the importance of this for sustainability. But currently, we do not know of any additional funds. And so in working with partners, it is important for partners to think about long-term usage of having the additional workforce to help them in doing certain things within the community that they know they could benefit over time, right? And so the hiring goes through September 30th. We'd like to get it done sooner than that because we want to ensure that there's so many things happening over the Creek summer, New York's way of welcoming everybody, that it starts sooner so that we can really utilize the opportunity for assistance during the time where the months and the weather is great, waiting until the end to think about having interns. Does that answer the question?
It could have. I didn't hear it. So I think that I heard you say that the ideal situation is that the agency would take on these interns with the idea of how they could use them for a longer period?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, say that again? I'm not really sure how, we probably have to talk a little bit more about that, but just so you know, the city cleanup work is simply one of the internship opportunities that we have through our partnership with HRA, right? there are other opportunities that would be different from this, but right now, our organization is, and our program is very focused on that. I think that would be a whole different method, and perhaps it would call for support for an extension of this sort of the value, the community benefit from and press for.
Okay, I know there's another hand, but I just want to make something of a comment more than, not just a question, not really a question, but a comment. But when you have to choose between your benefits and this program, which seems like it's a really great way to get people jump started, as most internships are, when you have to make a calculation of, this program or something else that they're pretty much already into, it's not really an incentive. It's more, it's sort of de-incentive. Yeah. So if it were presented, and I'm sure you don't really have the capacity to do that, but it presented in a way where it adds to something that they're already receiving, and then they get to do this, I would imagine that would be a easier sell to young people who, in essence, really want to get that leg up. That being said, that's just a comment. I understand, Dr. Burke, you have a question?
Testing. Oh, thank you, Madam Deputy. You may have mentioned this in your presentation already, but from what I can understand, this is only open
Sorry,
to...
I couldn't hear that statement. Could you, I don't believe you spoke it either. Could you repeat what the deputy or
Okay, so let me try my question again. So you may have mentioned this in your presentation already. This is only open to HRA residents. I guess my question is, in following up on what Madam Deputy said, how would you incentivize regular teenagers or people to apply? Because it seems like this is a great program to get people to clean up their neighborhood. So is it closed to just people who are in the social services, Department of Social Services network, or would you consider opening it to other residents of New York? Thank you.
Right. No. It's not just for HRA participants. We said that we would give preference to HRA participants, but it's open for anyone unemployed, 18 years of age and older. So it's not just for cash assistance clients.
Let me ask a follow-up question. So what would be the website that I would be able to direct our residents to tell them to apply?
Yes, Chris, can I put it in the chat and you share it? Okay.
Thank you, Deputy Borough President, and thank you all for the presentation. Kind of segueing off what Mr. Faulkner said, if I heard correctly, this is a paid internship program. What is the what's the payment structure, and is this something above people's benefits? If it is so, then is there the potential for that income to be deemed for purposes of TANF and unemployment? You said that they would be that potential applicants would be working with their caseworkers at HRA. If they decline to work in City Corps when it's offered, City Cleanup Corps when it's offered, are they also then afforded other opportunities that are presented to them? And if those are cumulatively declined, will that then trigger a negative action for their work requirements? Thank you.
Sorry. So yes, the income that they will receive, the $20 per hour for the 40 hours a week, that income is budgeted towards their cash assistance budget. Depending on their household size, it can close their case, or it could remain open with lower benefits. But they are entitled to transitional benefits, transitional SNAP benefits, as well as the child care benefits if there are children on the case. And again, all of this is explained to them during orientation. So they have a choice of saying yes or no. The other part of the question, Chris, you said?
If they decline the offer to the City Cleanup Corps and other opportunities that are presented, would that then constitute a violation of the work requirements for TANF?
No, not at all. No, this is strictly voluntary. If they do not wish to participate, they don't have to. And right now, all cash assistance clients are on a waiver. So when the waiver is lifted by the state, then they will be be mandated to start participating in the regular either training or work or internship that JCC or GCI provides.
Yeah, there was one other question. If I heard you correctly, you said it's a 6-month program, but I wrote down that it was from June to September. What are the dates?
That's the hiring block between June to September.
Oh, but
And then
it'll
it'll be
go
6
till-
months.
He said what?
Oh, 6 months after the date of hire.
Once they're hired, 6 months.
I see. Okay, thanks.
It depends upon the point of hire. Sorry, Nicole.
Go ahead.
Okay. It depends upon the point of hire. We have hiring that goes through September 30th. And again, if you start in September, 6 months from the time that you're placed with a partner site, that's when, 6 months later, I believe it's in March, that's when you'd be picked. If you started July, then 6 months down the road would be December. So that's when you would end. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Okay. All right.
George, you were next, and Mr. Faulkner.
Thank you. I'm sorry that I'm going to speak very slowly to minimize on the echo. I'm actually suffering here because I do wear hearing aids now, and I still can't follow this conversation because of the echo. This room is terrible. My question is, I have a very real problem with HRA running this program, especially using a non-for-profit to administer this program. These jobs should be run by the agencies that are responsible for carrying out these jobs. These interns, I even have a problem with the word interns. These are not interns. You know, we had arguments when I first started, when I got to college back in '94, about public assistance and work requirements. And yet this is what we're doing now. This is how this administration is responding to the money that they got from the federal government, and they're channeling it now to HRA recipients, requiring them to do work. I mean, I know those work requirements already exist, especially on the cash assistance, but I have a very real problem. These jobs should be going to DSNY employees, DOT employees. We stopped. I don't even know if we're doing graffiti removal anymore through NYEDC. We've had all these programs already, and we stopped them. And the city's response was, let's channel this money to a group. I mean, no offense to JCC, whatever they are. I'm sure that they're great, Coney Island. But again, how do we measure accountability on how many jobs are getting done throughout the boroughs? Is every community board going to get an equal number of cleanup jobs or graffiti cleanups? I may have missed all of that, but I'd like to explain the practicality or the logistics of carrying out these cleanups, these graffiti removals. Are people calling 311 and then you guys are responding? This is HRA's job now? Again, we have city agencies that are doing these jobs already. DSNY can use extra basket pickup, yet that's not what was funded. We're going to do beautification projects throughout the boroughs. Again, where? Underneath the Bruckner can get a brand new beautification project. There are a number of streets in our districts that can get done. Are we supposed to call JCRC directly, or are we calling 311 to make these complaints? Again, I'm sorry if I missed it because I'm suffering, I can't hear, and I know that I'm not going to hear your response, but I do want to know how the logistics of this works.
Just so if it makes you feel any better.
I'm sorry?
If it makes you feel any better, no one can hear that well, which is kind of how I started. I knew we were going to have problems, but we had to do it this way, and we will work hard to get the other room that's a little better for our next meeting, but in the interim, this is where we are. And as the translation goes on this side, whatever I am able to hear, I'll try to repeat to the room. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to sort of agree with what Mr. Torres is saying in that.
Well, hold on a second, because Chris is telling them the comments, and they're going to reply. I don't think anyone here disagrees with what George said, so we just want to hear them reply.
So the question is, how does one know where to clean? Is that what you're asking?
Well, that's probably the most actionable question. We're going to try to do it piecemeal.
Okay, so there are a lot of partners partnering with this city cleanup corps. HRA and JCC is just one part of it. So, and our focus is more on beautification of the city, not necessarily, I think I heard some part of it with the sanitation. So the partners that Leonie mentioned and that they have right now is partners in senior centers, in, Leonie, you could chime in with more of your partners. And again, it's more indoor and outdoor beautification, cleaning up, again, community gardens, removing graffiti, and things such as that. Leonie, you can add.
Yeah, I just want to add, I didn't hear the entire question being provided by the gentleman, but I believe he talks about the idea of complexity, right? And I just wanted to mention that as Nicole, and support what Nicole is saying, there are a number of partners engaged in this initiative. It is not simply HRA or ACPDPI. This is not a matter of their idea of people only DOT should have this, because sanitation is also a partner within this initiative on a different aspect of this initiative. The idea is we do have interns, we do have members in the community, both who might be on public assistance as well as unemployed, who do need jobs. There are certain communities that were decimated during the lockdown that were affected by, whether it's crash on the streets, whether it's the fact our senior centers were closed, being closed for so long, needing to reopen, needing to be able to bring people back. So the wealth of opportunity that comes out of this, it's not a one person fix all. It involves a collective call to action. It involves the engagement at many different levels. I would love to have heard your entire comment, Mr. Torres, and to be able to specifically respond in a way that aligns with some of the concerns you're outlining. But just so you know, JCCGCI partners with a number of organizations. These organizations not only include centers in areas that most people predominantly don't go to, but we know that community members live. And whether it's working with, community resource group, where we know that the public, many members of the public go to and look forward to having access. We also look at the fact that local businesses who are also struggling, and that private partnership is there. These are ways to not simply, DOT employees are already employed, which is fantastic. There are many members of our community who are unemployed and are having challenges finding a job. This internship opportunity creates a bridge to being back in the workforce and being able to possibly have a reference to somebody they've been working with for this time period who have employed them. We have success stories of that already, where in the mid-Bronx, Senior Center, one of our interns doing indoor and outdoor beautification will be hired in the community. And so we're looking at those opportunities as a way of collectively trying to find areas of rejuvenation in our community. So I hope that somewhat answers your question, and do forgive me that because of the technology, I didn't get to hear it. But I do appreciate what you're saying, and I would like for us to respond to you in a more lengthy way on your time.
I'd like to follow up. I'm sorry, I'm watching this on BronxNet because my phone streams directly right into my hearing aids, so I can hear better.
Technology, that's...
Yeah. So, if I understand you correctly, this is precisely my concern. You're working with community partners to identify cleanup projects, from what I heard, indoor projects and maybe community gardens. Again, you're not addressing the many, many concerns that constituents call about 311 all the time. They don't call JCC, whatever you are. They don't call HRA. HRA doesn't see those complaints. DSNY sees those complaints. DOT sees those complaints. For what? For cleanup. White Plains Road is dirty. Fordham Road is dirty. Are you going to be out there cleaning? Are you a cleanup crew? Because you see, the problem again that I have is that this administration has cut New York City workforce and partnered with non-for-profits to take city jobs away from unions. These are union jobs that we're talking about. And we're giving it to the nonprofit sector, and you're going off and you're doing your own thing. There's no accountability there. There's no response to the constituents' requests when they call 311 and they say, hey, there's a dump out on the corner of East 233rd Street and White Plains Road. Are you going to be there every day, or do we have to coordinate? Because I have elected officials that are coordinating cleanup days. As a matter of fact, shout out to Eric Dinowitz and Jamal Bailey, who are doing a cleanup this coming Saturday in that respective area. This morning, I was with my colleague, Matt Cruz, cleaning up I-95, the bridge over next to Truman between Co-op City and the Valley. Those are the types of things that I want to know. Are you going to clean that up? Is City Cleanup Corps, because that's the title of this initiative, where's the accountability? What jobs are you taking to clean up, or are you coordinating with senior centers, as you mentioned, to do indoor nice jobs? I mean, is this Christmas in April where you're painting seniors' homes, or are you doing the jobs of 311? That's what I want to know. I want to know where this money is being spent. What jobs are you doing? How are you getting those jobs? How is it being equitably distributed across all the boroughs, even to the community boards? What cleanup jobs are you doing in Community Board 12? That's what I want to know.
Number one, okay, lots of questions again. Love to be able to give credence to all of the comments by Mr. Torres. Mr. Torres, for you to understand, I just want to break this down to you a little bit more. Local community organizations are within communities. They're not created by us to be there. They actually exist in the communities, right? The community partnerships that could be developed are with partners who are either participating in bids, local community boards. We've been approaching partners on that grassroots level. This is not a top-down partnership. We're a nonprofit organization who have been working with grassroots organization for the length of years that we've been in existence, and that is the foundation of the work that we do. We believe in community because we understand the accountability is for community. And so does HRA understands that the accountability for the community needs to exist. This is why we have worked with local community partners in the community. We've handed out flyers to the local community partners in the community for them to say, hey, here's your other network of others within your community. Let them know about this opportunity because it's a great way for all of us to build together. I can tell you of instances where I have met with, for example, you have local organizations who may not have the bandwidth all to be able to say they can supervise an intern. And so what they do is reach out to another partner within the community and say, hey, here's the opportunity, because we've just met with JCC GCI. Working with them, collaborating with them, helping them to collectively complete an agreement so they can benefit from it. This is, again, I think that the accountability exists on many fronts, and I do appreciate you stating that. The accountability exists on those who are within the community, whether they're complaining to 311, don't work for 311, whether they're complaining to 311, and that would go for sanitation, I believe, who would be working with that. But these are community partners saying, we're gonna take it into our own hands. We wanna make our community look good. We're gonna work with JCC, GCI. We wanna create these partnerships, these internship opportunities for people who we know live in our community, who need jobs and are working and are be able to help some members of the community are unaware of businesses that are there. And this is also another opportunity for them to be aware of those businesses. It is not, this initiative is not a panacea. I did not say that. I don't believe anybody thinks that way. However, the accountability exists. The contribution to the community is there. The local engagements with community partners are there and exist and are followed through. Again, it would be great to be able to hear you from point A to B and to truly respond to the points that you're raising. And I do appreciate them and would like to give you adequate credence regarding that. I do believe Nicole and HRA is very much interested in doing that. But I'd really like a transcript of what it is that you're stating so that we can properly engage in a conversation, because technology is making it very difficult for me to hear what you're saying so I can specifically respond. No doubt, Chris, thank you for the translation, but it is a bit challenging because the comments, I think, coalesce what Mr. Torres is saying, and it's hard to get it.
I'll just have one quick follow-up. I think every community board across the city of New York would very much like to know which organizations you call or local organizations you're working with and with our respective districts so that we can coordinate with them.
We have done some communications with the community boards and have asked them to reach out and for us to present. I know that meeting with community boards, for example, reaching out, I give an example in terms of Midwood. Community boards meet at different times, and the engagement
I'm going to interrupt.
I know that, so those are efforts we've done. I know that we're even trying to work with, I'm sorry?
Yeah, I think that we're all interested in a fulsome list. So I would like to give you the time if you to develop the list and send it to us through Marisol, the list of Bronx partners that you're working with by community board, if you can do that. Also, the projects or areas that you're working in terms of cleanup on such and such a street. So if you could do that to us and get that to us, we will disseminate it throughout the board. I don't want to put you on a spot at this moment.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. I think George has made some excellent points that we all agree, but they have a capacity to answer only from their point of view. They have this mandate, and then there are those paramount issues of how the city has allocated and decided to allocate these funds, which are perhaps for another forum, but certainly not under their purview. and that point has been efficiently made. Do we have any other questions or comments for this presentation? Okay, seeing none, I want to thank both of you ladies for the presentation today. We look forward to getting that list and more information, and perhaps even having you here again if necessary. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you so much.
So that is the end of our official agenda. You know, at this point, we usually save time for announcements. We had on, we did hope to have the New York State Police here for a short presentation in the area of announcements. Apparently, there are entrance exams and application. There's an open application period, which is going on right now, and you can reach that. Did we give these flyers out? So everyone has a flyer, and there's a QR code, and there's joinstatepolice.ny.gov. And I just wanted to say, in terms of this type of application process at a time that we are working through lots of social justice issues, and we all want to be a part of the solution, and in some cases we may consider passing this information on to those folks that are underrepresented on the New York State, this New York State, not New York City, New York State police force. And so they're certainly looking for diversity, and they're certainly looking for folks that are underrepresented. We probably need some more ladies on the force. We probably need some more people of color. So I'll just add my 2 cents in that we might take this to our respective communities and in fact encourage application on the level of, you know, being working within for change. Okay, we also have City Hall in our borough, City Resource Fair, and that will be next week, Tuesday, July 27th, from 12 to 4 at Roberto Clemente Plaza. These are also flyers that are being handed out. And at Roberto Clemente Plaza, that's 530 Willis Avenue. And there'll be lots of city agencies there that are willing and ready to participate with everyone from the community in order to, so that we don't have to all go all the way down to City Hall and do our business. And we should have, my understanding is that the mayor will be in our borough, also under the flag of City Hall in the boroughs, and he will be here, in fact, in this building, July 26th through the 30th. The question would be how to schedule something there, but they don't tell me everything. And one more item, and then I'll open it up to any of you folks that might have something going on that you'd like to announce. And this is the New York State Independent Redistricting Commission. And they're having a virtual public meeting July 26th, which is also next week at 2 p.m. We'll have to present whatever link there is to provide to log on to the virtual meeting, but you of course can send comments. And redistricting obviously is as a result of, well, not obviously, so as a result of our recent census and recent ability to change lines in city councils and city council first, and then also will come state and federal lines. and all of those, our election districts and things like that. Being a part of that process is important. Again, at the grassroots level or community board level, it's important to make sure that we are taking part in that process. As this great borough of ours grows, I'm pretty sure we have, whereas some places are losing folks, we gain people all the time. Thank you. They seem to understand that the Bronx is the best. Stay on the mainland. And so please consider being a part of this process, and then also, or maybe submitting some comments on behalf of your board and on behalf of redistricting. So that's all I have on my plate, but again, I will open the floor to community board members who might have something to announce, and then we'll move to any other agencies. But I don't see anyone in the room. So what do we have? George.
Yeah, I'm on fire today. I have a question in regards to the OML guidance that you sent out in regards to our public meetings as we're set to resume in September. I guess there's a question on our side. I know Tom and I had this conversation that you are to be board members, I should say. Board members have to be in person at the location. But
Can we table this to after the meeting has ended?
well, I mean, I think this is relevant to all the board members here, and
I did not say it wasn't relevant to all of the board members. I just said after the meeting has adjourned. So if we can just give it all give an extra 5 minutes to at the end after we've ended the meeting. Is that okay?
I defer to your judgment.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns, announcements? If not, we will adjourn the meeting. Okay, we are adjourning the meeting